Shabbat Shalom, Kahal Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushua, Bahashim Kodash. Double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of GMS, including the elders that came before them that taught us His truth. And Shabbat Shalom and salutations to all the brothers out pushing the word in truth and in sincerity, the hopeful elect tabernacle of David. I'm the brother Yahshua, I'm back with the World War III Daily Update. Shabbat Shalom and salutations to you as well. We're going to start right here at 2nd Ezra 13 and 31. And one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another. And this last one comes in the middle of World War III. All this is talking about World War III. What this is Ezra, right, was given a vision. And he's explaining the vision that he saw. Okay? Let's start at 29. Behold, the days come, right, when the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth, and he shall come to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth. And one shall undertake to fight another. He's explaining what he saw. Okay? And what he's explaining right here is what we're watching right now. We're watching, many wars have gone on, but this is the last one. All right? How do we know? Because it is in this time that what? The Most High is going to begin to deliver them that are upon the earth. And we're looking at the signs. Okay? Now, and one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another. Now, how do we know that this hasn't happened before? Because of this next line, and one realm against another. All right? Because we understand what this means, and one realm. This means the third dimension and the fourth dimension. Okay, who's coming out of the fourth dimension? The one that you ignorantly call Jesus Christ, and the angels are going to participate in World War III. Okay? That's how we know that this hasn't already taken place. All right? And we're going to prove that during World War III, while the people are fighting against each other, right, both sides, right, you got the Allied forces on two sides of World War III. They're going to stop fighting each other and then turn around and try to fight against those that come out of the fourth dimension, right? And one realm against another, all right? We jump down to 33. And when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another. What battle do they have one against another? The Allied forces on one side, right, which is NATO, the EU, the United States, all their allies. And then you have Russia, China, Iran on the other side. They're going to stop fighting each other. They're going to leave the battle they have one against another. Why? Because they've seen who's coming out of the fourth dimension. One realm against another. They're going to leave the battle they have one against another, and then they're all going to come together. They're going to be gathered together to fight against who they saw come out of the fourth dimension. Who is that? The one you call Jesus and the angels, right? We go back up here. It says, and I beheld, and lo, that man, who is that man? The one you ignorantly call Jesus, whose name is Yahushua. He waxed strong, meaning he was in his war chariot, with the angels, the thousands of heaven. Okay? That's who this is talking about. All right? So we'll qualify this. That man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven, right? That's who you call Jesus and the angels. We come back down here and we say, and when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another and come together to do what? To overcome him Who is him? The one you call Jesus. By fighting. They're going to try to fight. They're going to stop fighting each other. They're going to come together, gather together, so that they can take down the one they call Jesus and the angels. And that's what it is. All right. So, what time are we in right now? When they are growing to fight each other. World War III is culminating, and they're going to fight each other. So, what we're going to do at this stage in the update, we're going to let this guy Clayton, forget his last name, is it Morris? Clayton Morris, right? We're going to let him bring up the update. And your boy Scott Ritter is going to appear in this video. So we're just going to let it play and get a little update for Friday before we go into the 2-day break. And we'll see each other again on Monday. All right, this is redacted 1 day ago. It's over. NATO is making Ukraine weaker by the minute. All right, here we go.
Well, the war in Ukraine is taking center stage at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. A lot of big news emerging over the past 24 hours. The first of which is 99-year-old Henry Kissinger. They rolled him out on stage, and he now says that Ukraine should join NATO. That's, of course, a big flip-flop on his previous position that Ukraine should negotiate peace and give up land, give up the Donbass. Well, that's concerning. And then we heard from Finland's prime minister that Putin is irrelevant, and the only way for this to end is for Ukraine to win and also retake land. Listen.
We don't know when the war will end, but we have to make sure that it will end Ukrainians win. I don't think that there's any other choice. If Russia would win the war, then we would only see decades of this kind of behavior ahead of us. I think other countries are looking very closely what is happening now in Ukraine. And if Russia would win, then it would send a message that you can invade another country, you can attack another country, and you can gain from that.
So if that's not enough, they seem to be on the same page that Ukraine has to retake its land here, all of these elites. The United States and its allies are set to increase the amount of weapons that we're sending to Ukraine. Joining us now is former UN Weapons Inspector, United States, and former U.S. Marine, Scott Ritter. Scott, welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with NATO. Let's start with that point from Henry Kissinger, who a lot of people made a lot of noise about 8 months ago, 7 months ago, when he came out and said, no, like they should negotiate peace, give up 20% of their land, be done with it, because otherwise they'll be basically eliminated as a country. Why the flip-flop, do you think, on this major point?
Well, I think only Henry Kissinger can answer that question fully, but we need to understand that, he is the name attached to a major business, Kissinger and Associates, which provides advisory and analysis support to big clients, including governments and businesses, etc. There's an old adage in the military that I always was reminded of when I was standing in front of senior officers explaining why what I did was right. They said, Ritter, when you're explaining, you're losing. And, Kissinger made a statement 8 months ago that was closer to being right than wrong, that Ukraine can never be a member of NATO, that process is inherently destabilizing. But the end result was a backlash that I believe hit the bottom line of his core business and business interests. Where he's speaking at the World Economic Forum, so it's the bottom line that matters. And for Henry Kissinger, he's no longer in the business of directly impacting national security. He's not the national security advisor. He's not the Secretary of State. He's a former, who has significant baggage. I mean, there's a significant part of the world that reviles this man, condemns him as a war criminal, etc. So his existence is contingent upon his ability to continue to attract attention from the establishment. And his statements that were made last summer put him at odds with the establishment. So I think, because this is incoherent. I mean, to be frank, his statement is fundamentally incoherent. It makes no sense, except when seen in the larger context of similar incoherence coming out of Europe, NATO, and the United States about this conflict in Ukraine. So he rather than being right, has opted to be wrong, but be wrong in the right way when it comes to his economic interests. I don't think there's any real, analytical gift being brought here. This is pure selfish economic interests.
Right, and he's absolutely in line with the other globalists and the other elites who are speaking at Davos. We heard from Ursula von der Leyen also coming out saying that we need to support Ukraine as much as possible, throw as much money and weapons there. The United States also echoing those sentiments over the past 24 hours. And then you have the Finnish prime minister also saying the very same thing. Your response to what she said about Putin is now irrelevant, and that Ukraine needs to retake its land, and that's the only way that this ends.
Hey guys, Toby Matt.
Salakia. We'll listen to a little more. Wait for the commercial. Bear with me.
I don't mean to be too cute here, too flippant, but there's really no other response because they're not serious people. I mean, they hold serious positions, but what they're saying is so far removed from reality, so far detached from what's actually going on and what's actually going to happen, that you have no choice but to, get a little cute when they respond. To me, what's happening here is a gathering of the Titanic captain and crew after they hit the iceberg, saying the iceberg is not relevant. We're going to make it to New York.
Now, why? Why are these things happening? Why are people doing things that don't make any sense? Because they're being directed by the Most High. The Most High is making them do the things that they're doing. It seems without logic, but if God puts in your head, oh, well, you can succeed, you're going to go for it, whether it's foolhardy or not. That's what Scott is trying to explain. See, if you don't know what's going on from on high, right, then these things, they seem desperate, if you will. All right. So, and we're going to examine that. We're going to examine who's doing this, who's making these people do this. Like, for example, during the Egyptian war, when Pharaoh went heads up with God, which is ridiculous, right? Pharaoh, he probably didn't want to do it. After he saw the power that Moses had given to him by the Most High Yahweh, Pharaoh was like this, fuck that. I can't overcome the power that Moses has given to him by his God. So let me stand down. And the moment that he stood down, what did the Most High do? He hardened Pharaoh's heart. Okay? What does that mean? Well, he mind controlled him. His heart, your heart is your mind. It's the Hebrew word lob. Okay? It means your mind. So Pharaoh was like this, fuck that, I'm not stupid. And the Most High hardened his heart, made him fight anyway, even though he didn't want to. And that's what we see going on here. And Scott is trying to, he said, these people are stupid. He said, you Ukrainians, there's no way you can win. Well, there was no way that Pharaoh could win against the Most High either. But yet, they're going to yet durst fight. Okay, they're going to fight anyway. Why? Because the Most High is controlling the whole scenario.
All speed ahead. Meanwhile, water's coming in, the ship's sinking, and they're just saying, nope, keep on going, keep on going. That iceberg is irrelevant. No, I'm sorry, crew. The iceberg done won. And I'm sorry for all the people in Davos. Russia
The Most High is the iceberg. Okay.
Done won. It's game, set, match. Now, you can prolong the suffering of Ukraine, and that's all that's happening right now. The goal of that was stated by Lloyd Austin and others last April, May, that the goal, and they were sort of honest back then, the goal wasn't for Ukraine to win. The goal was to inflict pain on Russia. I mean, right, that alone should have caused every Ukrainian to go, what, wait a minute? It's just another bit of irony. I was singled out by the Center for Countering Disinformation, Zelensky's private little intellectual hit unit, for being an international terrorist and a war criminal and a Russian propagandist, for daring to say what I say. The number one thing that I was accused of was, they listed three main things, but the first one was that I had the gall to say that this was a proxy conflict between NATO and Russia. Well, the Ukrainian defense minister just came out and said the exact same thing. So I'm looking forward to his name appearing next to mine. Just like I'm looking forward, I don't have to look forward. It is Arestovich, the former advisor to Zelensky, is now on the Mirotvorov's hit list. So he and I are now partners. Me and the defense minister are partners. It seems that everybody's gravitating towards the stance that I've taken, and they're all appearing on the same list. But besides being cute and coy about this, the point is, this has always been a proxy conflict. It has never been about Ukraine winning. So why are people suddenly now, at this late stage in the game, trying to convince people that there's a new reality, a new outcome, a new direction being taken policy-wise, when the truth is this is a proxy conflict between NATO and Ukraine, or NATO and Russia, where the Ukrainians will pay the price. NATO and the United States are prepared to sacrifice the Ukrainian nation and the Ukrainian state for the sole objective of weakening Russia, and they have failed. They have failed economically. Russia, 28% growth in its in the income derived from energy. They were looking at they were expecting 15% drop in GDP, 2% drop. Remember, the entire Western world that Russia was fundamentally linked to has sanctioned Russia, broke Russia off. This should have been a precipitous collapse in the Russian economy. Instead, 2% reduction in GDP, 28% growth in the income derived from energy sales. Inflation is literally a third of that of Europe, a third of that of Europe. The Russian economy is firing on all cylinders going forward, not just firing on all.
Why is Russia growing? Why is Russia prospering out of this? Who's on Russia's side right now?
Cylinders, but firing all on cylinders in a way that not only sustains civilian economic growth, but they've expanded defense industry production. They are on a wartime footing right now, not only to sustain and support the special military operation, but to grow the Russian military over the next 3 years to 1.5 million men, primarily through contract services. I mean, professional soldiers, an increase in divisions, 10 division equivalents being created, whole new army formations, etc. Meanwhile, NATO is still struggling whether or not they can get those pathetic battalion-sized battle groups in the Baltics up to brigade strength.
What he's saying is that the Russians are stirred up. Okay? Now, who stirred them up?
They have the funding for it. They don't have the decision-making. Russia is so far ahead of them in terms of strategic thinking, and we haven't even gotten to what's going on in the SMO. 300,000 troops finalizing their mobilization, equipped with the most modern equipment, ready to go right now on the battlefield. Meanwhile, England is celebrating that they made the courageous decision to provide 14 Challenger 2 tanks, and they're now talking about bringing in Warrior armored vehicles to work side by side with Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, as if technology makes a thing. At the end of the day, it's the quality of the soldier, the quality of the soldier's training, the quality of the leadership, the quality of the staff planning. Russia owns all of those sectors. The Ukrainians are a defeated nation, a defeated military. That's the ultimate outcome, and nothing anybody says at Davos is going to change.
Well said, well said. And we've seen a couple of major moves over the past few days. Obviously, near the city of Bakhmut, and the city of Soledar being collapsing now to Russian forces. Ukrainian volunteer soldiers coming out in interviews with the Times admitting that they were unprepared to fight the Russians. They said we had a few Kalashnikov rifles and a few grenades, and that was it. We didn't have anything. We didn't have night vision goggles. We are not prepared to fight the Russians. And then, of course, you have this other report from CNN confirming what you had just said, which is that basically Ukraine is being used as a testing ground for weapons. Like, that's essentially what Ukraine is now. It's just a testing ground where these military industrial complex can now test these weapons against Russia. Is that really what the future of Ukraine is going to be? Basically one large testing ground?
No, that might be the present status of Ukraine. The future of Ukraine is to be one large graveyard. I don't mean to be too grim here. This war's over. It's over. I mean, the only thing that's left is death and destruction. But, this is the equivalent. I keep trying to tell people, They're like, well, the war's not over. It's going to go on for a long time. Hey, dude, any analyst worth his or her salt would have told you in March 1943, after the fall of Stalingrad, that the momentum had permanently shifted over to the Soviet Union. But even if you had doubts about that, from September 44, after the Battle of Kursk, we now know that the Soviet Union is going to win. There's nearly another year's worth of fighting ahead, but there's no doubt about it. It's the same thing in, with the once the Allied forces ensconce themselves in Normandy, it's over. Germany can't win. There's still fighting to go. We're at the stage in the conflict right now where any strategic thinker worth his or her salt is looking at all the data, all the statistics, and realizing there's nothing that can be done to salvage Ukraine. Its economy is toast. Understand that. There is zero economic growth in Ukraine. It's all diminished. Power, its infrastructure, gone. Even if the war stopped today, Ukraine is a hopeless train wreck that will continue to crash through the next year. This winter isn't the one Ukraine needs to worry about. It's next winter when everything shuts down. There is nothing left.
All right. So it goes on and it goes on. You can finish watching this if you want to, but it's pretty clear. Why? Why is it over? Okay. Well, because whatever the Most High is planning, that's what's going to happen. All right. So this is redacted. It's over. He keeps saying it's over. It's over. All right. Why? Who is on the side of Russia? Let's find out. Okay. We always bring this out, but I mean, got to do it. Isaiah 13:17. Behold, meaning look, right? Look. I. Who's I? Who's this I? Okay. That's the Most High. That's the one you call God. The only God with any power, right? His name is Yahweh. I will stir up the Russians. The word Medes goes back to the Russians. I will stir up the Russians against them. Who is them? Them is Babylon. Who is Babylon in this case? The Americans. All right. Who's the main player in the West? Okay. And Babylon is a system, right? Babylon the Great is a system, but it's also talking about America, the American system. Okay. Where's the UN at? It's in America. Okay. But the point is this: I will stir up. God is on the side of who? The Russians. The Russians. Okay? The Most High is stirring up. The Russians are stirred. This is what, here's what Scott Ritter is saying. The Russians are stirred up, right? Or as they would say, as a Negro would say today, they turned up. The Russians are turned up, and they're not going to lose. Who turned them up? The Most High turned them up. How can they be defeated if the Most High is with them? Okay? Who's doing this? Who's responsible? I is doing this. The Most High. Okay? He. All right? Joel 3. I will gather all the nations. Who's I? The Lord judges the nation. I will gather all the nations, bring them down in the valley of Jehoshaphat. The Most High is doing this. I will gather the armies of the world into the valley. Who is I? This guy right here. Yahweh. Yahweh. Right? What do they call him down here? This is the closest they come. Let's see. No, they don't get that close. Salakia. Anyway. Yeah, Yahweh Shaphat, this Jehosa, like you say, Jehovah, right? Yahweh is how you say it. He's the one setting this thing. He's responsible for the war itself. What is this? What does this mean? I will gather the armies of the world, right? Specifically into a battle of Armageddon, but who's doing it? Who's I? Well, his name is on it, Yahweh. All right. So who can overcome it? Who can? If it be of Yahweh, if God is doing this, nobody can stop it. Acts 5:39. But if it be of the Most High, ye cannot overthrow it, lest ye be found even to fight against them. Who can do? Who's Pharaoh tried that? What happened to Pharaoh? Don't try to fight against the Most High. He'll make you fight against him, meaning you finna die. All right? But if it be of the Most High, ye cannot overthrow it. But if it is from God, right, you will not be able to stop these men. All right? What men? The Russians in this case. You will only find yourselves fighting against God. So what is the Ukraine? What is NATO and the EU, the Ukrainians and the Americans? What are they doing? You may even find yourselves fighting. They're fighting against the Most High. And what happened to Pharaoh? All right. Well, America is Egypt, right? And and right now, who's the Pharaoh? Joe Biden's the Pharaoh. Right before Kamala Harris becomes the Pharaoh, right? Look at this shit. They don't want me to finish this, do they? Okay, so this is we'll end it on this. Yeah, Pharaoh. Where's the Pharaoh located? In Egypt. Revelation 11 and 8. And their dead bodies shall lie in the strait of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt. This is talking about America, where also our Lord was crucified. All right. Babylon the Great city is spiritually called Egypt. Who's the Pharaoh? Joe Biden. Okay. So when you're reading the Bible spiritually, right, the Spirit is supping with you, showing you things that are secret and mysterious. All right. So we'll go ahead and end it right there. That's a good interview. Should go back and watch the rest of it. Redacted, it's over. All right. So with that, we hope that the elect were edified, you brothers and few sisters. With that, we're going to say Shabbat Shalom.